What's going on out there, everybody? This is Samuel Leggett here, representing TeamJVS, here to give you guys another anime review. Hope you guys have been enjoying our anime content. If you have not checked out our review on Spy Family or Summertime Rendering, definitely go and check that out. But this is my review for Bubble. This was being directed by Tetsurô. If you don't know who Tetsurô is, he has directed, of course, Attack on Titan, High School of the Dead, a number of other notable things, but the most notable one for me that I remember, of course, was Death Note. But Attack on Titan, as it stands right now, is to me one of the best anime series of all time, period. And I don't even know where it's actually going from a narrative standpoint. But I do love the anime, and it's well directed. Jin Urobuchi is actually the one that is written this one. I think that they wrote Psycho-Pass as well. Did a really good job with it. But the narrative of this is very fascinating to me because it centers around, how do I even put it without spoiling too much? Bubbles have fallen from the sky at a certain point. And when the bubbles fell across the world, specifically in Tokyo, it surrounded Tokyo in a dome, essentially. And it was cut off from the world, where inside that dome, like, not only are, like, people have died, but, like, there are buildings and such that gravity is just a little different. Like, these bubbles are in certain places where you can kind of hop on them. Bubbles are underneath the foundation, so some things are, like, weightless. Some things, there's, like, whirlpools of, like, things falling into them. And you don't know what's going on necessarily, but you do know that the epicenter is at this one specific tower that it seems like it's still continuously building, and they don't know what for. There's researchers that are trying to investigate what's actually going on, but even they don't even know. So then, case in point, you got our main character, and Hibiki is, how do I put it? He's a very fascinating character because he is very talented, but he's got an issue when it comes to noise. He wants to distance himself. I don't know if, and I'd have to research it, if it's possible that Hibiki has autism, possibly, or a minimal version of it. But some of the signs, like, from stimulation standpoint, are too much noise and self-isolation. It kind of, to me, it could be that, but I don't really know. I'd have to actually go and research it. But he uses music. He uses, like, headphones to kind of zone out. But he's very calculated. He's very precise, but he doesn't connect with anybody. And one day, you know, he goes and tries to get to the furthest distance he possibly can, and he effectively falls and looks like he's gonna die. Then, lo and behold, somebody or something comes up to him, saves him, kisses him, and now you got the character that Yuta is. And Yuta is everything. It becomes everything to what Hibiki is trying to search for, what he needs, and what he values about himself. It's very fascinating. The science fiction aspect of this is very fascinating because it's kind of like a cross between The Little Mermaid and I think the other thing, as I said, it was spoiled too much, but let's just say science fiction, very science fiction. The art, the design, the animation is phenomenal. Like, when you see them on, because the kids there, like, they've been cut off from their families, so all they do are these games, and they do parkour contests to try to test their limits. And there are different factions of them. And Hibiki is a part of the Blue Blades, and the Blue Blades are some of the best because of him. And yet, like, there's more to that because they're almost like a family because they don't have families or mothers or fathers of their own. And they are continuously pushing themselves, and one day, you know, they brought on to Yuta, and it changes their whole dynamic as a family and the way they function. But again, the parkour, the visual aesthetic of it, it is beautiful. It is immersive. It keeps you going, and down to, like, final moments of this, it's so fascinating to actually watch them really work together. As far as the voice acting, I've only listened to the English dub, but I think the English dub was actually done really well. I would be very curious to see the Japanese translation with English subtitles. But just in the way, even with the English dub, with the characters themselves become more important than whatever you're hearing vocally from what's going on, because all of them have a connection to Hibiki, and all of them at the same time are hurting or dealing with some kind of trauma, or they're trying to get somewhere. They're trying to get somewhere together. And it's just awesome to watch them function together and grow together and become ultimately a family together. It is very specific. I think the last time I had something like that was Raya and the Last Dragon, where these unsuspecting individuals need each other so much, but they are coming from totally different places. But they're also drawn together because of tragedy. And that's where the narrative is very functional to me. The only thing that doesn't work with the narrative to me is too on the nose when it comes to the specifics on the Little Mermaid aspect of this. I think that is the only detracting for me, because you kind of know where the narrative is going to go. You don't know the specifics of it, but you kind of know where things are going to go. And I think that's really the only negative, because the character designs, they allow for a lot of emotive expression. And with crying, that's hard to kind of do. Like, you can have somebody like have an emotional moment and you kind of feel with them, but it's another thing to actually visually see it. When you have a character that is incoherent and doesn't know what their place is, or when they show expression of need for love, but they can't actually show it, that's where the animation shines. But it's more so the character progression. Like, these characters are growing literally together. And the way that it's written, it's just so fascinating. Their connections and their relationships. The relationships are the thing that are the key point to the story's narrative, even more so than the science fiction aspect of it. Because the science fiction side of it, it gets very deep. It gets very dark, and it gets very, at times, very hopeless and sad, depressive almost. But they always keep that veil of light and levity. And if you think of a bubble for kids is everything. Like, kids love bubbles. They love to see them pop. They love to see them float. And I think there's something about the way they think about that specific of what a bubble does to a childlike mind, or to anybody, honestly. It's fascinating. It's beautiful, but it also fades eventually. And I think that concept is where the movie itself, in and of itself, its own name, circles around that. And I think that in and of itself is very fascinating. I would rest this at an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's a beautiful movie. I think it's got something to say. But I do wish that they would kind of go a different route to it, because it kind of, again, it went down this Little Mermaid like story where I was kind of like, okay, you can make this a very compelling and very different as well. And they do. But I didn't like that I knew where things were going to go. And I think even some of the other characters like Usagi and Kai, like, I was kind of like, I love their character progression, but then I don't like why this is happening this way. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you go and check it out on Netflix. It will be debuting, let me make sure I get this date right, April the 28th. So definitely go and check it out when it is available on Netflix. I'll talk to you guys soon. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell button. Peace, guys.
Falling out the top of the I can see skyline.